schedule.
out, but
it
today,
never come in.
We didn't get one.
Today, we're going to talk Masters here in the first little bit to wrap that up after this weekend. Dustin Johnson led start to finish, and not much of a tournament for him. But you know, everybody's like, it was boring. He was winning, but at any moment, Terry or Tom, he hits one ball in the water, the tournament changes.
He could have had
just one shot.
He could have had a 10 on a par 3 like Tiger Woods.
Yeah, how about that?
Right, exactly. You know,
they did get back within one of him though.
Right,
you know, and then he opened it back up again.
Right, and you got to play good. It's not like you just get it or whatever. You know, you have to play good to win. It's not like you're. It's not like say in basketball. You know, you get to 100 or whatever. You know, that's my score, but the other team's still coming. In golf, if some guy gets, you know, an eagle or something, and all of a sudden, you know, well, crap, now there he is. He's right there. Or if I make one shot, the good thing about Augusta is there's not much out of bounds, if any. So, like, you have to hit one really bad to lose a shot there. And that's what was, you know, my theory last year about about Molinari. He didn't hit it in one water. He hit it in like every water on the back nine. So that's how only way you lose a big lead like that. And I didn't see Dustin Johnson doing that. He plays well. He hits the ball hard. I saw a guy yesterday in the European Tour hit a drive 439 yards. I think it was.
That's a pretty good knock.
449 yards.
He's almost up our with
yeah,
him.
yeah.
He averages 1 yard less than DeChambeau does on the tour. Now DeChambeau's his longest drive is a little bit longer, but it was in Mexico. I think is where
I'd like to see him go to standard equipment. I don't think it's fair that these guys can get all this engineered stuff and hit it.
I know
439 yards.
The golf world would lose their minds, but I have a proposal. What if they, like Major League Baseball, went to wood?
It wouldn't bother me.
Good idea, bad idea.
Seriously though,
indifferent.
Dustin Johnson was the lowest 72 hole in Masters history.
Right.
Okay. So they're benefited by this advanced equipment. What if Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer and Gary Player and Lee Trevino and all them guys back in the 60s and 70s would have had the equipment that these guys have today? And then you're gonna compare DJ to Jack Nicklaus. I just don't think it's fair. You know, you might say, well, Tiger won a Masters at like age 44, 43, and I think Nicklaus was 46 when he last. But Nicklaus won it with the old school stuff. And, you know, you got all this engineered stuff that they have today. And I understand, like, for guys like us, the lost duffers, you know, well, Kevin's pretty good, but I'm not that good. So, I mean, I could benefit from these hybrid clubs and all this stuff. But, you know, somebody like, you know, Dustin Johnson, I mean, it's hard to compare him to the greats of the years past. Mm-hmm. Whereas it's a little bit easier in baseball, because it's still like 60 feet, 6 inches, still got wooden bats. They said the balls were juiced and blah, 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 but still it's nothing like they've done in golf. So, you know, what if they basically said, you know, this is equivalent, what if they said in baseball, okay, go ahead, cork your bats, do whatever you want to, use a metal bat, use whatever you want to, and then we're going to compare you to Babe Ruth. I just don't think it's right.
I personally have wood 3 and 5 woods, and I hit them just as well as I do my metal 3 and 5 woods.
It ain't going as far. It ain't going as far as with a metal wood. I'm just telling you, it ain't going as far.
I'm telling you that
I got more confidence when I'm out there. I have a 3 wood, and I got more confidence with my 3 wood than I would if I grabbed one of the other ones.
A wooden 3 wood.
A wooden,
right? That's why I hit my wood 3 wood 250 off the deck.
I
270
can control about where it's going.
I can get it 260.
I kind of lose that sometimes, which I'm like you, Tom. I would not be even the same bark as Kevin, but I can drive and I can putt, but my irons destroy me in the middle, and that's where I lose.
Kind of what he's talking about there. That's what I want to lean on real quick. Is it's not like there are players on tour that hit the driver as far as I do. The only difference is, or I hit them as far as they do. The difference is when they get to their irons. So they're hitting 7 irons from 200, and I'm hitting 175. That's the difference. Is your iron club head speed and hitting that ball solid and hitting it forward. And well, I knew Tiger was out the other day, and I texted one of my friends. It was day one or day two. I can't remember which day it was. He hit a pitch wedge from 135, and he hit it short, like the front of the green. And I'm like, he's off or done. Something is write that off. I hit pitch wedge like 140, 145. I can hit it 150 if I want to, but if he's only hitting it 120 on his pitch wedge, something's off of Tiger. I don't know if that's going to work with him. And he hit a lot of balls in the water. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. He's hurt. His back's tight. I mean, knees. How old is he now? 45? Is he in his mid-40s?
He's 2 years younger than me. I think he's 44.
Okay, so that's just, and you walk 4 miles too, and then every swing. So like, say you go practice your swing. Every swing's hard on your back or your knees or something. So the more you practice, the more you hurt yourself.
It's a pretty
basically.
Casual 4-mile walk, though.
Well, that's what I was getting to say. And most of the time, you're really
casual
not
all right,
thinking
Tom,
about
go to your class
walk.
tomorrow and say, all right, guys, we're going to walk for 4 miles. We'll be for class today. And see,
Well, you
what
start.
would they say?
Stop. It's not.
What would they say?
I mean, I walk. I mean,
kids
shoot,
would
as a
be like,
teacher, I probably walk 4 miles every day at my job. I'm
maybe
okay
you
because
do.
I got me this fancy smartwatch that tells me that, Terry. So I mean, I walk 3 or 4 miles.
Right.
You know, so I
probably
just
do
don't-
about the same in Publix.
Yeah, I just don't see it. You know, it's not that big a deal. But the main thing I have is the equipment, and I know that everybody can say, well, this or that. The modern players have better equipment. It's not standardized, and it should be if you want to compare people over time. So I mean, I just don't think you can really get an act. What would Jack Nicklaus do with this equipment in his late 20s, early 30s?
And
I
that's
mean,
in anything that we're talking about, even
Right.
basketball. You cannot compare Michael Jordan, how he played, to Kobe, how he plays now, and the defensive-wise part of it.
So,
I mean, it's kind of hard to
right.
compare them.
Club fitting also helps a lot.
Yeah.
People don't take into account.
Mhm.
But the ball and the hoop are all the same, and it's
Yeah.
still 10 feet.
Yeah.
Like in golf, it's like they've changed that. You see what I mean by it would be like the equivalent of basketball is like maybe they lighten the ball, and now you could shoot 3-pointers from half court. You know what I mean? That's what makes, in my opinion, that's what makes it a little bit harder to compare golf over time. Even though in other sports, I mean, even if you look at the NFL, people setting these crazy passing records, that's similar to basketball because these refs are looking for something the defense does. The defense can't do anything. I mean, they can't even hit a guy anymore. I was watching that Purdue game, and Purdue should have won the game because they got a touchdown late. They called offensive. Well, it was offensive pass interference, but they're looking for pass interference like every single play. I mean, they're calling pass interference, hits. You know, it looks like a clean hit to me, Terry, and somehow they throwing the kid out of the ball game. So, you know, that's another comparison. I mean, over time, like basketball, football is more the rules, but with golf, it's you're changing the equipment over time.
So the club fitting point I was going to get at is it used to be, I would say Ping or Callaway makes a set of clubs. They make one set of golf clubs. So now you can go in and you get your irons fitted to your size. So like me and a 6 foot, the golf clubs, like you go buy them factory, they're made for somebody that's 6 foot tall. Okay. Well, most golfers on tour are taller than that. And so they have longer clubs. If you're shorter, you need shorter clubs. Some guys have even irons all across the board. And what I mean by that, the same length irons. So some guys have them cut off where they're all the same length, so it's the same swing. Guys have different swings. Jim Furyk swings totally different than Tiger Woods' swing.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at the length. Then the next thing you look at, and people don't understand, is shaft bendability, flexibility. So there are limits to what you can do, but some guys like a really tighter shaft so they hit it straighter. Some guys like it a little bit looser so they can wail on it. The more bendability is, the farther you're going to hit it. So it's kind of like with a NASCAR, you know, you're kind of working on parts to where I got to hit this. Then after you get the shaft, then which degree head are you going to use? Do you want any roll on your drive to where if you hit it bad, it's going to bounce out of bounds or something? Or do you want backspin on the ball and you're going to lose 20 yards because you're going to hit it higher and it's going to drop down? So there's, you know, do you want 8 degree, 10 degree, all that? So all that Jack Nicklaus could do. Arnold Palmer and Ben Hogan, they said, I need a driver. You know, in the movie with that Hunter and I was talking about this week, Greatest Game Ever Played, they went to local sporting goods store to buy their golf clubs and stuff, which most normal people do. But the pros and stuff then would have done the same thing, and so that's different. The golf ball's obviously a little bit different, and people think about that. It sells. In baseball, we went through the whole chicks dig the long ball phase there in the 90s. Hitting the driver sells. People get up and that's all they talk about. Well, I could shoot 110, Terry, but if I hit it 25 yards past your drive, you're going to hear about that, right? So I think that's part of that. But I do think the wood, if they went the pros, I know Tyler Snell would pitch a hissy fit, but they'd sell a ton of wood clubs. But maybe something to that nature to where you dial it back a little bit with the drivers, with the flexibility of maybe of the shafts or something to that. I don't know what there's probably so much technology in the balls and like the baseballs that we can't normal humans tell, I would imagine.
But I just don't think that's as much of a difference. Like I know they've re-engineered golf balls too, right. But it's not like the equipment. That really stands out to me.
There's spin a little bit more. Like you go hit a top flight out here, it's not gonna.
And when I was a kid, you didn't hit a balata unless you were good.
Right.
Because if you mishit a balata, you'd cut it. But there's not like that anymore, But I remember when I was a freshman and sophomore, we had a really, really good golf team. A lot of those boys were good, and they competed, and they all were in the 70s all the time. But they all hit balatas. But I couldn't hit a balata because I hit it one time and put a smile. Remember that you put a smiley face in it. So I had to hit top flights. We called them top rocks. So
rock flights.
You did a top rock if you weren't any good, but if you were good, you could make it spin. But now these balls are a lot more durable. You get that same spin, and you don't have to have the old balata balls, which you've cut, which I haven't had in a long time. But I understand that as a certain amount of difference. I mean, even like the basketballs and footballs have been re-engineered, but it's not like the equipment, man. It's just not the same. So I guess I would like have a line, like, somewhere like 1990 and back. I don't know when they started using metal clubs on the tour. I'd have to look it up.
Well, with all the technology, they can measure distance like immediately.
Mm-hmm.
What if you had a distance limit?
You wouldn't want to do that.
Huh?
You don't want to do a distance limit.
What about a distance limit, Terry? You're foul.
That's just dumb. No, that's dumb.
Okay. I'm just saying.
Well, you telling me that'd be like in baseball. Okay, well, you can't hit it. If you hit it 500 feet, then you hit it too far. It's not a home run.
No, that's something you're trying.
It's a single.
It's something you're trying to. Well, I was thinking more of the softball type rule. Is that that's kind of what I was thinking. Is that you can't hit so many home runs or
Been in
so
a lot
many,
of those.
I'm not calling it out of bounds shot. Maybe back it up and drop it to the 300 mark or whatever it is. A guy that hits at 300, that's a pretty damn good shot. Okay, no matter what shot you're hitting. So if you're hitting off the deck and hitting the 300 and stuff, 3 woods and stuff, that's when you're getting to the distance. You're like, okay, this is getting stupid. Like, if you're 300 out and you're pulling out, or 230 out, you're pulling out your 6 iron.
See, but I don't understand these. Like you bring up that softball, and I know a lot of guys around play softball. Why don't you just make the parks bigger? If everybody's hitting it out, just playing a bigger ball.
They do. You can go from 270 to 320.
Land is pretty cheap. I mean, just buy.
I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Well, what I'm saying is put them on put these softball meatheads on a real baseball field and make them hit it 330 down the line.
Tom, I'll tell you an instance that we played in. We were a D team, and that's when I played for Carolina Freight up here.
Yeah,
we were a D team, and we went to tournaments where you couldn't hit no home runs.
Now, Terry, is that ranked A to D or D to A? Is that good or bad?
It goes A, all the home runs you can hit.
Okay.
And then it goes B, C, and D. If you're a D team, then you're a base hitting team. You know what I'm saying? You can't hit no home runs. But we went to a state tournament that was held in Maiden, and we got waxed 2 games, and we were out of it. Well, the owner of our company, we was getting ready to put on a tournament the next week, and we says, well, we got to put on this tournament. And he goes, no, we're not putting on a tournament. Y'all get in another tournament this coming week because I need y'all ready for the World when it comes around in Savannah in a few weeks in September. So we said, all right, so we're scrambling to hunt a place to play in, and we had to go to Charlotte down there and play. So we got in a tournament. It's a Class A tournament. It was the only one around. I mean, there wasn't nobody else close to us unless we had to drive way off, like to Selma or Smithville or somewhere like that to play. So we got in that tournament down there, and we won that tournament. because we're playing on 320-foot fences that some of them guys in this A tournament couldn't hit it that far. It was long outs for some of them.
Well, that's the way it all. If it gets more, that's the way it
That's
ought
what
to
I'm
be.
saying. And we won that tournament, and people was like, "Whoa, y'all need to be bumped up," But it wasn't nothing like that. It's just that we hit them to death.
Yeah, I mean that's the way it ought to be.
Another idea or thought? I'm just throwing thoughts out there as far as it's kind of the same line as wood drivers or distance. If you don't want to have a distance limit, what about a degrees limit on your club? Like you can't have anything flatter than 15 degrees.
Or you could just make the woods made out of wood.
Yeah.
And Kevin comes up with all these creative things.
What do you mean? I mean,
you're
like,
very
if you're
creative.
looking for a way to fix it, like, because if you say it's 15 degrees, then you can still swing as hard as you can. If you can hit it 300, you still man up. But 15 degree loft, that's about 3 wood, or that's about 3 woods range. Or an 18 degree loft is somewhere at 3 wood.
What's your
5 wood
penalty
range.
if you hit it past where you're
Right.
supposed
Well,
to?
no, that's what I'm saying. If you don't have a yardage, if you don't like the yardage limit, then all you do is just change the clubs to say you can only hit. It's like changing the bats to -7, -3. You just say you can't have better than 15 degrees. And then if you still hit it 300, you hit it 300. That's fine. But you ain't gonna hit it 400 at 15 degrees. That ain't happening. I mean, that's just gonna be impossible. So that's what I mean. If you change the loft on it, on the loft rules on clubs, maybe you can back up the driver distance a little bit.
And you could. I mean, softball's done the same thing. They went from 52 core ball down to a
Balls
44.
and bats too.
Yeah.
You've
and
had to
double
change them
walls,
both.
you went away from all of that.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
I understand all that.
So either wood or degrees, you could maybe look at those two, into those two.
One thing we will find from last week, though, is we probably had the most champion of all time, 19 months for Tiger Woods being a Masters champion. Now we're going to have the shortest champion of all time for Dustin Woods.
That's true.
I mean, Dustin Johnson from now until April.
He better win the next one.
That's what I'm saying.
Then he'll
If
be,
he
then he'll
wants
be the
to
longest. Then he'll be the longest if he wins this one, right?
Yeah, that's what. Well,
Well,
it's the
somebody's
one
going back to
coming
back.
up.
I don't know.
So,
No, the weirdest part was the jacket ceremony, and we'll talk about that between the break because that's not radio friendly. We'll be back in a minute, JP, on KTCBroadcasting.com.
So how's Ohio State not make your
We always tell our kids that there's no such thing as a money tree. But did you know at Friendship Nissan in Forest City, we kind of do have a money tree? Our money tree gives a $500 better price on any new Nissan, and that's a $500 guarantee that we put in writing. We have no haggle clear choice pricing, the region's only non-commissioned sales force, and we have the only